The blonde-haired, blue-eyed warrior, the pure Scandinavian bloodline, the homogeneous Nordic race sailing from frozen fjords to conquer distant shores. This is the Viking we've been taught to imagine, and according to the largest ancient DNA study ever conducted on Viking remains, much of it is wrong. For over a century, the popular understanding of Vikings has been straightforward. They were Scandinavian, from the lands we now call Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They shared a common language, common gods, and a common ancestry stretching back thousands of years in northern Europe. The word itself seemed to confirm this. Viking became synonymous with a people, a culture, an ethnicity. School textbooks presented them this way. Museums displayed them this way. And for most of the 20th century, there seemed to be little reason to question it. But the sources that built this narrative were limited. Sagas written centuries after the events they described, and archaeological interpretations shaped by the assumptions of their time. What no one could do, until recently, was ask the bones themselves. In 2020, a team of international researchers published the results of a 6-year study in the journal Nature. They had sequenced the genomes of over 400 Viking Age individuals, recovered from burial sites across Scandinavia, the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, and Eastern Europe. What they found did not match the textbook image. Some individuals buried as Vikings, with weapons, with ships, with all the ritual markers of Norse warrior culture, carried no Scandinavian ancestry at all. They were genetically Scottish, Irish, or from populations in Eastern Europe. Others showed mixed heritage. Southern European lineages, Sami ancestry from the Arctic North, even traces from as far as Western Asia. At Salmi, in Estonia, a mass burial of warriors from a ship raid dated to around 750 AD revealed a crew with notably diverse genetic backgrounds. Some closely related, some not, all buried together as equals. The evidence was consistent across sites, across centuries, across the entire Viking world. The people we call Vikings were not a closed ethnic group. They were something else entirely. The word Viking did not originally describe a people. It described an activity. In Old Norse, to go Viking meant to go on an expedition. To raid, to trade, to seek fortune overseas. It was a profession, a choice, a way of life. A farmer in Denmark who never left his fields was not a Viking. A Pictish warrior from Scotland, absorbed into a Norse crew and buried with Scandinavian rites, was. The genetic data now confirms what some historians had quietly suspected. Viking identity was defined by participation, not by blood. It was cultural, it was occupational, it was, in a word, earned. This does not diminish Scandinavian heritage. The language, the shipbuilding, the mythology, the social structures, these originated in the Nordic world. But the people who carried that culture forward were never as uniform as later generations assumed. Traditional history did not miss this through carelessness. It missed it because the tools didn't exist and because the questions weren't asked. 19th century archaeology developed alongside European nationalism. Viking heritage became a point of pride for Scandinavian nations, and the image of a pure Nordic ancestor served political and cultural purposes. Written sources, composed by Christian monks or Icelandic scribes generations later, rarely mentioned the foreigners who joined Norse expeditions. Genetic diversity left no trace in the sagas. It took molecular evidence, analyzed without nationalist assumptions, to recover what the historical record had overlooked. The Vikings were not a race, they were a phenomenon. A network of warriors, traders, and settlers who absorbed newcomers, adapted to new lands, and carried their culture across oceans. Their legacy is not diminished by this complexity. It is deepened. Because identity, even 1,000 years ago, was never simply a matter of where your ancestors came from. It was also a matter of what you chose to become.